बच्चों, कैसे हो आप सब। आज केमिस्ट्री का एक बहुत प्यारा सा छोटा सा इंपॉर्टेंट चैप्टर स्टार्ट करने जा रहे हैं, केमिकल रिएक्शंस एंड इक्वेशंस। जो चलो देखते हैं फटाफट। सो व्हाट आर चेंजेस? चेंजेस आर नथिंग बट द प्रोसेस ऑफ शिफ्टिंग फ्रॉम वन स्टेट टू अनदर। और सिंपल लैंग्वेज में बोले हम तो चेंजेस क्या है? बेसिकली चेंजेस दे आर द अल्टरेशंस इन फॉर्म, साइज, शेप ऑफ एनी सब्सटेंस, जो आप लोग प्रीवियस क्लासेस में पढ़ के आ चुके। Two different kind of changes, physical and chemical changes, which you have already learned in your previous classes. One is physical change and the other one is the chemical change. Now what are the differences between them? You all are already aware of that. So in the physical changes, they can be easily reversed, whereas chemical changes cannot be easily reversed. Like combustion of any substance. Combustion means burning of any substance in the presence of oxygen. Okay, so that cannot be easily reversed, and that is why they are known as what? Chemical changes. The physical changes can be easily reversed, like melting, shredding. These are what? They are physical changes. In the case of chemical changes, new substances formed, whereas in the case of physical change, no new substances formed. Like rotting, digestion. As you know that when the food is digested, it results in the formation of the smallest units, small units of any macronutrient. And those macronutrients are acted upon by the enzymes. So a new substance is formed. The physical change is temporary, like boiling. Water can be boiled and the vapors can be converted back into the water on condensation. So physical changes are temporary changes, whereas chemical changes are permanent changes. The example, the composition of substance remain unchanged. The composition of any substance in the case of physical change will remain unchanged. Like water is going to remain water only. It will remain H2O only, right? So the composition will remain unchanged, the same number of atoms present in each element. Whereas the chemical, in the case of chemical changes, the composition of the entire substance is changed as new substances are formed. Now with this we can discuss directly the chemical reactions. The chemical changes are generally associated with the chemical reactions, and the chemical reaction is what? It's a change in which two or more substances react to form a new substance. Now the substances which are reacting with each other, we call them as reactants. उनको हम क्या कहते हैं? Reactants. And the substances which are formed, they are known as products. And the products, they have a completely entirely different properties if you compare it with the reactants. The reacting species, it can be a molecule, atom or ion. They are known as what? They are known as reactants. And the new species which are formed as a result of the reaction between these reactants are known as products. Like in this example, you can see that hydrogen and water is combining and forming H2. H2 is water. So the product, the composition of product is completely different from that of reactant, and hence it is termed as a chemical reaction. How these chemical reactions can be identified? If there is a change in the state, means that the state of product is different from the state of reactants. Then we can say that a chemical reaction has taken place. Or if there is a change in color, if the color of product is different from those of the reactants, then we can say a chemical reaction has taken place. Or if there is an evolution of a gas, like you know that whenever a metal reacts with acid कोई भी आप ले लो, HCl ले लो, H2SO4 ले लो. So when these two react, what it forms? It forms ZnSO4 plus H2. So here what is happening? There is an evolution of a gas. So this also gave us the identification of a chemical reaction. What we mean by change in temperature? The reactions, they are generally associated with the release of heat or absorption of heat. Or absorption of heat. Okay, so this is again an indication of a chemical reaction. Or if there is a formation of any precipitate, precipitate means what? An insoluble solid mass. Insoluble solid mass which is formed, solid mass which is formed when two aqueous solutions are react with each other, then it is known as precipitate. And the formation of a precipitate is again an indication of a chemical reaction. So the question which comes in boards that write three, they can ask you three ways by which you can identify a chemical reaction. So the next topic which is coming up is chemical equations. Whenever any chemical reaction can be expressed in the form of symbols, then we call it as a chemical reaction. Like carbon can be represented by C, हाइड्रोजन का सिंबल क्या होता है H, ऑक्सीजन का सिंबल क्या होता है O. So यहाँ देखो symbolic representation है chemical reaction का. So it can be represented in two different ways. एक तो symbols के साथ represent हो रही है और दूसरा words के साथ represent हो रही है. Like when methane combines with oxygen, what is it forming? Carbon dioxide and water. So here the reaction is expressed with the help of words. तो ऐसी इक्वेशन को हम क्या बोल देते हैं? We call it as word equation. सो एग्जाम में पूछते हैं या तो वर्ड इक्वेशन को आपको सिंबॉलिक इक्वेशन में कन्वर्ट करना होता है या सिंबॉलिक इक्वेशन को वर्ड इक्वेशन में कन्वर्ट करना होता है. सो दिस शुड बी क्लियर टू यू दैट व्हाट इज सिंबॉलिक representation of a chemical reaction or what is word equation. Now the same equation, how can you represent in the form of symbols? CH4 is nothing but methane, O2 is oxygen, and when it reacts with the absorption of heat, it gives carbon dioxide and water. These are two very important terms which are associated with chemical reaction, जो generally बच्चे ignore कर देते हैं, but इसकी understanding बहुत ज़्यादा ज़रूरी है कि what is skeletal chemical equation and what is balanced chemical equation. Any equation in the raw form or the equation which is unbalanced is skeletal chemical equation. Like H2 plus O2 gives H2O. अब यहाँ देखोगे अगर आप तो हाइड्रोजन के दो एटम्स हैं, ऑक्सीजन के भी दो एटम्स हैं इन ऑन द साइड ऑफ रिएक्टेंट्स. लेकिन यही चीज हम प्रोडक्ट्स की तरफ देखें अगर तो हाइड्रोजन कितने हैं? दो, लेकिन ऑक्सीजन कितना है? खाली एक. सो दिस इज एन अनबैलेंस्ड इक्वेशन. सो अनबैलेंस्ड इक्वेशंस जो होती हैं उनको हम क्या बोलते हैं? स्केलेटल केमिकल इक्वेशन. और क्या कह सकते हैं कि इन विच द मास ऑफ रिएक्टेंट्स एंड प्रोडक्ट्स आर नॉट सेम. The mass of reactants and products are not same on both the sides of equation is known as skeletal chemical equation. यहाँ reactants और products का mass क्या है? Similar नहीं है. On the other hand, in the case of balanced chemical equation, the mass of reactants and products are same on both sides of the equation. Now, if you check over here, the hydrogen is what? 4. On reactant side, oxygen is 2. And on product side, if you check, hydrogen is again 4 and oxygen is 2. अब इसमें how do we calculate the number of atoms? वो भी थोड़ा देख लो एक बार, समझ लो. 2H2O है. So number of atoms कैसे calculate किए जाते हैं? This is the coefficient. यहाँ ये जो 2 है, this is coefficient. And this 2 is subscript. So इन दोनों को जब हम मल्टीप्लाई करते हैं then you will get the total number of atoms. सो यहाँ हमारे पास कितने हाइड्रोजन के एटम्स हुए, 4, एंड ऑक्सीजन इज व्हाट, oxygen number of oxygen atoms you can find from 2O. So 2O से कितने ऑक्सीजन एटम्स हमारे पास आ गए, 2. So this reaction is, there are 6 different types of chemical reactions: combination reaction, decomposition reaction, displacement reaction, double displacement reaction, oxidation and reduction, exothermic reaction, and endothermic reaction. We are going to see all these reactions one by one. Now see, this is a reaction given for combination reactions. Like carbon dioxide, when combines with water, it forms calcium hydroxide. The common name of calcium hydroxide is slaked lime, which is very important and we need to revise it. Keep revising the things. Like calcium oxide, it is also known as quicklime. So what is the activity? You have to take small amount of calcium oxide. So calcium oxide लेना है हमें small amount में, and then या क्विक लाइम हमें लेना है. सो क्विक लाइम एंड कैल्शियम ऑक्साइड इज वन थिंग. द केमिकल नेम इज कैल्शियम ऑक्साइड एंड क्विक लाइम इज द कॉमन नेम इन अ बीकर. एंड व्हेन यू ऐड वाटर टू इट, then what is going to be formed? कैल्शियम हाइड्रोक्साइड, जिसको हम स्लेक्ट लाइम भी, ठीक है. सो व्हेन यू touch the beaker, you will feel the heat, because in this reaction what is happening, the heat is released, and when the heat is released in any reaction, we call it as exothermic reaction. So calcium oxide and water combine to form a single product which is known as calcium hydroxide, and this single product is formed from 2 or more reactants. That is why it is known as a combination reaction. When two components are combined, or two reactants are combined and give rise to a single product, then it is known as combination reaction. Now this calcium hydroxide, when combined with carbon dioxide, it forms calcium carbonate. What is the important part over here? That a solution of slaked lime is calcium hydroxide, which is produced by the previous reaction. It is used for whitewashing walls. So जब calcium hydroxide को walls पे लगाते हैं, then it reacts slowly with carbon dioxide. So जो हमारे atmosphere में जो carbon dioxide present है, ये calcium hydroxide उस carbon dioxide के साथ react करके एक compound बनाता है जिसको हम कहते हैं calcium carbonate. And because of the formation of this calcium carbonate, you get a shiny finish to the walls. And it is interesting to note that the chemical formula of marble is also CaCO. So generally exam में जो question आता है, इसके ऊपर आता है कि either they will ask you for the manufacture of cement, or they will ask you regarding quick lime or slaked lime or formation of calcium carbonate. Now other very important reactions, set of reactions, the previous one, this reaction, and this reaction. The other reactions are burning of coal. Carbon when combines with oxygen forms CO2. Formation of water. Water is formed by the combination of water and oxygen. In other language, we can say that two or more substances when combined to form a single product, it is known as what? Combination reaction. And combination reactions are generally exothermic reactions. They are exothermic. So in the case of combination reactions, generally large amount of heat is released, and that is why such reactions are known as exothermic reaction. Burning of natural gas. Now here you should remember that CH4 is what? It's a natural gas. And when combustion of natural gas takes place, it results in the formation of carbon dioxide and water. One very important question comes between the comparison of respiration and photosynthesis. Like this is the reaction over here given in your book. This is respiration, and here you can see a large amount of heat is also released. So this is an exothermic reaction. And why this is an exothermic reaction? Because here the macromolecules are broken down to form their fundamental units. Like carbohydrates are broken down to form glucose, which when combines with oxygen in our body and provides energy. So the energy is getting released. Whereas if you see photosynthesis, what is photosynthesis? 6 CO2 plus 6 H2O plus energy gives C6H12O6 plus 6O2. So here you can see this glucose is forming and the heat energy is absorbed. So this reaction is endothermic reaction. So this is the main difference between the exothermic and endothermic reaction, and that is how we can compare photosynthesis and respiration. Now, what are decomposition reactions? Decomposition reactions are the reactions where a component gets broken down into two or more substances. Okay, it's basically breaking down, and in such you can remember it by breaking down. When a large component gets broken down into different substances. Like here, this activity you see, 2 grams of ferrous sulfate crystals are taken in a dry boiling tube. What will happen? The color, now you note down the color of the ferrous sulfate, and when you heat it over the spirit lamp, the color of this ferrous sulfate crystals, they are going to change. So you need to observe the color of the crystals after heating. So what is going to happen basically over here? The formula for ferrous sulfate is FeSO4, and when it is heated, it loses its water of crystallization, as the formula can be represented as FeSO4.7H2O. So when you heat it, it loses its water of crystallization, and that is why the color gets changed from one to another. So ferrous sulfate, when heated, gets broken down into ferric oxide, sulfur dioxide, and sulfur trioxide. And these sulfur dioxide and sulfur trioxide gases are pungent smelling gases. So 2-3 things are there which you need to remember for this reaction. Firstly, the water of crystallization, then the color change, and then these pungent smelling gases. The another one more reaction is of calcium carbonate. So that when this calcium carbonate is heated, it gets broken down into calcium oxide and carbon dioxide. And this is known as thermal decomposition. What kind of decomposition is it? Is thermal decomposition, because here the breaking down of a compound takes place with the presence of heat. That is why it is known as thermal decomposition reaction. One more important reaction which is given through activity 1.6, that when 2 grams of lead nitrate powder is heated, then the gas which is released is NO2, and the fumes of this gas is brown. The color of the fumes is brown. So here is the reaction given in the textbook. Twice PbNO3 whole twice, when it is heated, it gives twice PbO plus 4NO2 plus O2. So ये जो reactions है ना, ये कहीं ना कहीं आपको प्रोडक्ट्स के लिए पूछ ली जाएंगी, या कहीं ना कहीं इस तरह से पूछ लिया जाएगा कि कंपाउंड named X when gets broken down release gas with brown fumes, so name the gas which is released. So you should know these reactions and practice by writing. Reactions को बार बार लिखो और practice करो. So lead nitrate का formula क्या है? Twice PbNO3 whole twice. और जब इसको अपन हीट करते हैं तो हमें क्या मिल रहा है? Twice PbO plus 4NO2 plus 4. So this is nitrogen dioxide. ये क्या है? ये है lead oxide. And this is lead nitrate. Now see this activity 1.7. This is electrolytic decomposition. सो इलेक्ट्रोलाइटिक डिकम्पोजिशन क्या होता है, जहां किसी भी सब्सटेंस का कंपाउंड का ब्रेकिंग डाउन हो रहा हो इन द प्रेजेंस ऑफ इलेक्ट्रिक करंट. सो व्हेन यू सी दिस एक्टिविटी 1.7, ड्रिल what is taken in this activity, you have to take a plastic mug. उसके नीचे हमें इस तरह से दो होल ड्रिल कर लेने हैं, एंड देन यू हैव टू इंसर्ट द कार्बन इलेक्ट्रोड्स इन दिस रबर स्टॉपर्स, और फिर इसको हमें क्या कर देना है, बैटरी से कनेक्ट कर देना है. So when you pass the current through it, then what is going to happen? You will see bubbles. You will see bubbles in the test tube. जो दोनों आपके कार्बन इलेक्ट्रोड्स होंगे उनके ऊपर आपको बबल का फॉर्मेशन दिखेगा. And these bubbles, they displace water in the test tube. In this activity, you need to find out that whether the quantity of the gases collected the over these test tubes, electrode के ऊपर जो ये bubbles बने हैं, are these same in quantity or are they different in quantity, and if they are different in quantity, then why? So here what is going to happen, as the formula says, देखो H2O, the amount of hydrogen will always be double of oxygen. So oxygen का जो amount होगा वो हमेशा हाइड्रोजन के अमाउंट से क्या होगा, आधा होगा, as per their molar mass. So the amount of gas collected in one test tube will always found to be double of the gas which is collected in the another test tube. The third kind of decomposition is known as photolysis, और इसको हम बोलते हैं photochemical decomposition, because here the decomposition is taking place with the presence of sunlight. It's very simple reaction. Silver chloride is broken down into silver and chlorine in the presence of sunlight. ऐसे ही दूसरा रिएक्शन देखेंगे, 2AgBr, it gets broken down into silver and bromine in the presence of sunlight. And the important part of it is that these reactions are used in black and white photography, जो बहुत बार बोर्ड एग्जाम में एक नंबर में पूछ लेते हैं सब पार्ट. We will continue the type of reactions in the next video. If you like the video and find the content useful, please like, share and subscribe the channel. Thank you, and we will meet in the next video.